People ask me sometimes, how did you write the song Follow the Prophet? And I think it's an interesting story. Interesting enough, I'd like to share it with you. It didn't just come off. It's like this. It started when I got a telephone call, hello, from Salt Lake. It was from the church music committee, and I had written some things for them in the past, and some things, spoken word for the tabernacle choir, and some other things for the choir. Not music, but usually the words. And they said, we have a new primary songbook coming out, and we want a song in there that's about 3 things. We'd like you to write it for us, will you? Now, what do we say when people ask us for a favor? What do we like to say? Do we like to say, yes, I'll be happy to? Or say, no, I don't want to help you? What do you think? Did I give you a clue? What would you say? Peyton, if I asked you to help me, would you say yes? I think you would, yeah. So that's what I said. I said, yes, I'll do that. And they said, okay, we want 3 things in the song. We want it to be about the Old Testament prophets. Said, oh, yeah. And second, we'd like it to sound like a Jewish folk song. And third, we'd like it to be a happy song so the children would want to sing it. And I said, oh, I didn't know it was going to be that hard, but I already said I would. What can you do? The first one, one song about the Old Testament prophets, all the things they did, a little bit like trying to getting the Old Testament onto, Wikipedia, onto a bumper sticker, shall we say. But if you work at it, maybe so. We'll work on it. We can do that. Second, it should sound like a Jewish folk song. Not a problem. I write a Jewish folk song every morning before breakfast, sometimes 2 or 3. I'm always writing Jewish. No, I don't know anything about Jewish folk songs. But here's the big one. This is the big one. They said, it's supposed to be a happy song. I said, oh, yeah. Now, I'm a happy guy. What's the problem? Problem is this, that my beloved wife, the mother of our children, had just died 2 weeks before. This is not a happy time, right? And we had a little family. And you may know this. We had a little family. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's getting serious, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We had 15 children. Isn't that wonderful? Just like sitting here. You knew that, but most people don't. So, with all these children, with my wife died 2 weeks before, how can I write a happy song? Now, what do we do when we have hard times? When we have something really hard? We already said, I'll do it. But now we need help. Sometimes you can go to your friends. Yeah? Sometimes you can go to your parents. But for the really big things, what do? We say again?
Pray.
Pray, absolutely right. That's what we do. And that's what I did. And I prayed heavily. And the Lord heard my prayer. He always hears my prayer. He always answers my prayers. Sometimes he says yes. Sometimes he says no. Sometimes he says, I don't think you've thought this out very well. Go figure it out and come back again. But he answered. And like always, almost always, when Heavenly Father answers our prayers, he answers it by someone else coming to help us. President Kimball said this a long time ago. And so in this case, that's what happened. And someone came to help me. Only this person didn't come in a person because he was a pioneer. And the pioneers, of course, have all died. But he's a person that I had written about before. And I remembered him. And it helped me to write this song. The person's name was Stillman Pond, a pioneer. And here is Stillman Pond's story.
Stillman Pond was a pioneer who, before he was a member of the church, had been a prosperous merchant. And then he moved to Nauvoo, where the prophet Joseph Smith was, and a lot of the other people who had joined the church so that they could all be together and help each other. After the prophet Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram were murdered in the Carthage jail, Stillman Pond wrote this in his journal: "Driven out, left the majority of the goods of our home and our store in the hands of the mob. 3 children and the baby twins buried back in Nauvoo." Later, Stillman Pond would write this as he went down that pioneer trail. December 2nd, 1846, died Lara Jane Pond, age 14. Chills and fever. Only 2 days after that, he wrote again. December 4th, 1846, died Harriet M. Pond, age 11. Chills and fever. 3 days later, he wrote, died Abigail A. Pond, age 18. Chills and fever. January 6, 1847, died Lyman Pond, age 6. How many of you are 6? Yeah, that's how old Lyman was when he died. And then he wrote this: died my beloved wife Maria, May 1847. So Stillman Pond had buried all but 2 of his 11 children. And now his wife Maria had died. And you know what? He himself was so sick, he couldn't even sit up in his wagon seat. Grandpa will tell you what he did.
You can see the scene. This man went out with a big family, and they died along the way, and he buried them, and 2 children left. They made it to Salt Lake, and so did he. But here's how it goes. Stillman Pond, his children all dead except 2. His wife dead. And he was so sick, he couldn't sit up in the wagon. He's like this. How could he see to drive the wagon? Well, in the front was a knothole, those little holes that come in the board sometimes. That's all he could see through. He looked through that knothole while he's driving his team, and he said, what can I do? He said, I believe that God is real, that Jesus is the Christ. Joseph Smith was his prophet. The gospel is true. But I'm so sick. I'm so weak. I am so sad. What can I do? But he looked through that hole, and he could see the tracks of people who went before him, pioneers in their wagons and their carriages. One of that set of tracks was made by the carriage of Brigham Young. And Stillman Pond said this: I will look at those tracks, and step by step I will follow the prophet. And I said, that's it. That's what this song should say. All those Old Testament people did wonderful things, but the important thing is that we follow what they said to do. Follow the prophet. So now we had something to write about. All we need now is some words and a tune. We'll have a song, right? Well, first of all, we need to get a tune. I like to first of all, actually I said tune, I really mean words. I start with the words first. So I thought of the words, follow the prophet, follow the prophet. That has a nice ring to it.
Follow